So the Milwaukee Bucks coming to this regular season is going to be under a huge microscope because you look at them trading for Damian Lillard. What that resulted in was Jrue Holiday going to the Boston Celtics and really just helped Boston get over the hump to win that championship. Now going to the season, people are saying, well, the Bucks have continuity. They're going to be healthy. And if they run it back with Dame and Giannis, things should be better. And I think it will be better with Dame and Giannis this season. I expect Dame to have a bounce back year on offense. But look at this roster as a whole. They did sign Gary Trent. I'm not going to just ignore that. Solid three-point shooter, gives you another option out there to space the floor. Taurean Prince, solid defender, can also space the floor as well from three. Also, Darvin Ham is the assistant coach next to Doc Rivers. So there's some changes that Milwaukee did make. But my biggest problem with the Bucks is the point of attack defense. When it comes to Damian Lillard and Gary Trent Jr., I'm not scared of them. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think a lot of teams are worried about them on the point of attack defense because I think they're getting blown by a lot of times. And look at the Milwaukee's defense. I think the biggest thing going into this regular season is seeing if Andre Jackson and Beauchamp can give them some significant minutes, because I think if they can add value for defense, and whether Beauchamp or Andre Jackson can score the basketball, that's beside the point. But if they can guard in space and really help protect those lanes, that could help Milwaukee's defense going forward. I think those young guys, if they can take a bigger role, and I think the experience might help them this season, then all of a sudden Milwaukee has a really good, or I should say solid defense, and I expect their offense to be really good. Then now you're looking at the Bucks as a top 3 team in the East. The problem is, I don't know how that's going to happen, because you're putting pressure on Jackson and Beauchamp to step up. And this team wants to make the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals, win a championship. So there's two conflicting things going at the same time. You have young guys who are developing and vets who want to win a championship again. I don't know if that's a good recipe for success. Now we're looking at the Bucks roster. It's an old roster. You look at Brook Lopez. Obviously, he can shoot the 3 ball. He's a good rim protector. But when it comes to guarding in space, you get him out there, he's going to get cooked every time. So if he has a team like the Celtics where they can stretch him out to the 3-point line, all of a sudden you have driving lanes in there for guys like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Jrue Holiday, and Derek White to go to work. So for me, Brook Lopez is not a bad player. I just think it would help Milwaukee if they play Giannis at the center. Bobby Portis gets some minutes at the power forward position. You can play Andre Jackson or Beauchamp, play Dame and Gary Trent or Taurean Prince at the wing position. I think Milwaukee's got to experiment with the rotation a little bit, because I think this team, when comparing it to like the Pacers, the Magic, you look at the Knicks and Sixers, all those teams right now are better than Milwaukee, in my opinion. I know you can say, oh, well, the Bucks would have made the Eastern Conference Finals. Sure, they probably would have, but I think Boston would have smoked them in 5 games because the matchup is not good for the Bucks. And then when you go to the offense, sure, they'll be really good. I think Dame will bounce back this season. I think Giannis will be really good. But the point of attack defense is still a major concern. Like Gary Trent Jr. and Damian Lillard as your point of attack defenders is a terrible idea. And I don't think it's going to work out really well for Milwaukee. So offensively, I think they'll be elite. On defense, they're going to be terrible again. Sure, you have Prince, you've got Beauchamp, you got Jackson. But unless Beauchamp and Jackson really have a bigger role, or they step up and improve and take a leap, then they're going to have the same problems once again. You have Chris Middleton, great on offense. He can score, put the ball on the floor, and shoot the 3. But he did have ankle surgery this offseason on both his ankles, and he's still recovering from that process. Not a good sign. So if Chris Middleton is out for a period of time, or if Brook Lopez has some injury issues, again, the roster is old, so they can get hurt at any moment. Damian Lillard, we saw he got hurt in that series against the Pacers. Giannis has had injury problems since, after the 2021 title. So again, I can't trust the health of Milwaukee because they get hurt. And also, I don't trust that defense. And then you have Doc Rivers as your head coach, and his offensive schemes, they just don't work for me. Defensively, I expect Milwaukee, they could be respectable, but at the same time, I'm not really moved by them. I think the only hope that Milwaukee has here is to trade Middleton and Lopez. I've been on that train for a long time, and I'm sticking by it, because I think Milwaukee, if they were to trade Lopez, let's just say for a younger, more youthful center or big man, or a small forward, right, who gives you energy, who gives you, some scoring punch, you play them differently on the floor, where you have Giannis at the center, you got whoever you traded for as your forward. All of a sudden, yeah, it's a different looking lineup, but they can play faster. They have more switchability. So I would actually like that for the Bucks. I don't know if Giannis would want to play center, but it's not a bad idea. I think they got to experiment with the idea of Portis, Giannis, Prince, Gary Trent Jr., and also Damian Lillard. I think Green off the bench, he was good in spurts when he got playing time. He can shoot the 3 really well. He's at like 40%. So the Bucks got to do some rotation experimentation here, where they got to look at guys like Beauchamp and Jackson and see how they fit on this team. I think Giannis at the center is not a bad idea, especially if you're going to match up against Boston, because if Giannis is on Porzingis, I like Giannis in that matchup. If you have Portis at the power forward position next to Tatum, I think Tatum wins that matchup. I think Portis can at least, make it hard on Tatum by crashing the glass, by stretching the floor. I think Doc Rivers has to look at this team and go, all right, I've got some guys. I like Lopez, I like Middleton, but there's going to be times where they're not playable. And I'm not saying Middleton's a bad player, but I just think when it comes to defense, the Bucks are going to get cooked. And if you're going to look at a guy like Andre Jackson, let's say he starts giving you good minutes. Do you play him at shooting guard? Do you have him out there as a defensive specialist? That way it takes the pressure off Damian Lillard. Or do you go out and trade Middleton for a 3-and-D guy who can lock guys up? I don't think that's a bad idea. Like a Lou Dort, for example. I know he won't get moved, but you get what I'm saying. That's what Milwaukee needs to look at. Unless Jackson and Beauchamp become those type of players, then Milwaukee needs to consider moving off Middleton or Lopez, because I think that will help their defense. If they can improve their defense in the middle of the trade deadline, all of a sudden the Bucks become a serious contender, in my opinion. I don't think they're far off, but I think they need to improve their defense. And I don't think this personnel is going to do that. I know there's talks about, well, Gary Trent Jr. is on a minimum contract that will motivate him. But at the end of the day, has he ever been a really good defender? Or is he more of a 3-point shooter and he can get you a bucket? And that's fine. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. I'm just saying that Milwaukee doesn't have a guy you can go to that can lock somebody up on the perimeter. And that's one of my biggest concerns with this basketball team. So when you go up against the Celtics and they can stretch you from the 3-point line, where Lopez has to come out and guard Porzingis, or Lopez has to come out and guard Al Horford, all of a sudden the driving lanes are wide open for the Celtics. So for me, when it comes to the Bucks, I got them as maybe the 5th seed in the East. I don't have a lot of expectations for them because I think at this point, this is a bad constructed roster. And if they don't, make a run this year, all of a sudden, I think Giannis is going to make a demand to leave Milwaukee. I think you're, one out of this situation. I can't blame him. And who knows where Damian Lillard's mindset is going to be, because, again, if they get knocked down the first round, or let's just say they make the second round and just get pummeled by the Celtics, then you look at the roster going, we're older. Lopez is, another year older. Middleton, he has health concerns, or he's just, going through something. Now I think Giannis and Dame are going to be like, we don't want to be in this situation. Trade us. I think for the Bucks to have a successful regular season, they need to make another trade, in my opinion. I think what will help this team even more is if they can find a guy who can guard in space, who can take the pressure off of Damian Lillard on the perimeter. So guys like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, Derek White aren't eating all day, blowing by and just getting to the paint at will for driving kick threes or layups, or just passes in the lane for easy dunks. And then if you can add another big who's younger than Lopez, all of a sudden you're looking pretty good, because then you can extend this run for Giannis and Dame for another year or maybe 2 years. But if you do nothing and you go into the regular season with the same roster and they get knocked down the first round and the second round, I think this whole experiment is done. I don't think Giannis will be happy next year. I think Dame will be more disgruntled, and then it will become a complete disaster. And all of a sudden the Bucks are back in rebuild mode. The GM of the team has to be very careful with the situation. He needs to monitor the roster and make sure that he's looking at guys who's available and is aggressive. Look, you got Gary Trent, you got Taurean Prince. Not bad moves, but I still have concerns about their perimeter defense, because I think it can get exposed and broken down so easily. We saw last year how their defense was just putrid. And again, Damian Lillard is not a great defender. Let's just be honest. He's really good on offense, but when it comes to his defense, there's a lot of question marks. So for now, I'll have the Bucks as the 5th seed just because of their championship experience, and I think Dame and Giannis will help them win a lot of games. I wouldn't be surprised if I see them finish 6th or 7th in the East, just because of the question marks I have on this roster. But again, we'll see how this all plays out. Thank you guys for watching today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you expect from the Bucks this season. Do you think they're going to blow it up at some point, or do you think they'll surprise all of us and have a deep playoff run? Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.